just heard this sentence in my head and it said, "Do you understand the mission?" I wrote it down. I was at Olive Garden the other day with my grandparents because my grandma, she turned 88 and she loves Olive Garden. My grandparents love Olive Garden, so we always go there, but I'm not crazy about Olive Garden. And so I started to, since I do more of the carnivore diet and I don't like their food, I do like a side steak and then I get some grilled shrimp on it, and then I got a side of meatballs. And my family, some of them don't usually come with us to Olive Garden, but they came this time. And they looked at me and they were like, "You're only going to eat protein?" We were also going to have cake at the house too, so like, I'm going to have a piece of cake. I was already plotting, scheming. But I was like, yeah, I'm just eating the protein. My mom was like, yeah, Rachel's on the carnivore diet. All she really eats is like meat and eggs. And I wish I would have been a little bit more confident in, it was just like when I felt, they were asking me these questions. You're only going to eat protein. You don't need fiber. I was like, no. Or like, you don't take vitamins. I was like, the food is our vitamins. But, it's kind of like, I can't go through all of this stuff right here in the middle of Olive Garden. Like, I can't go through all of this, like, we don't actually need fiber, because the microbiome, it adapts. And like, even if you think you need it for bowel movements, like, most of the time we're so dehydrated, constipated, like, people my age deal with like severe constipation. This is dehydration. Like, we are too dehydrated, and we hydrate through our minerals and our food. We don't actually use fiber. We can't break it down. It's not useful. To me, it drives up. It's just like excess entropy. Like, why would I, if it doesn't serve me, why would I even, and I know other foods do, why would I bother with that? And of course, like, on the other end, there's of course a lot of studies that say that if we get fiber, it can reduce colon cancer and other stuff like this. There's also a metabolic theory of cancer, which has a lot to do with the mitochondria. And Dr. Thomas Seyfried, oh no, where did I put my book? Oh, I got a towel on my head because I washed my hair. This book, Cancer is Metabolic Disease, it's kind of based on Otto Warburg's book. He was like, he did the research with the mitochondria. There's a process in the mitochondria. It's called the Krebs cycle. He worked with this man named Krebs, and they were like trying to figure out what's going on with the mitochondria, like what's going on in there. And we go through this process of cellular respiration. I don't have my picture near me, which is, I usually have a picture of the cell, and I think it's over there on the floor, and I can't reach it. But basically, they talk about, Otto Warburg's theory was like, every secondary cause of any cancer is a dysfunction of the mitochondria. And so that is part of a process called cellular respiration, which is how the energy produces cell. Like, we eat food and then food gets broken down, and that's cellular respiration. We use it for energy. But we have high process diets and low nutrients. Like, we shut the mitochondria off. Like, we don't need to use them because we're not eating the materials that the mitochondria needs. So like, before I made a video on here, like, mitochondria need B vitamins. They need enough lysine and methionine. They need tons and tons of amino acids, because amino and fatty acids, because they do fat oxidation. They use fat for fuel. They need oxygen. And so cancer as a metabolic disease is kind of like, perhaps cancer, when we see in a secondary cause, is like mitochondrial dysfunction. So the approach is origin management and prevention. So it focuses on driving mitochondrial function to help prevent diseases, illnesses, metabolic diseases, and things like cancer, which appear to be kind of like a metabolic disease. So, when you start to look at things that way, protein becomes this really valuable tool. And like red meat is like one of the cleanest sources of protein we have, because like oftentimes people ask me, do you eat a lot of fish? Our fish, our oceans, plastic, a lot of plastic and chemicals in the ocean. Like if you think of like what a fish would in what the fish's environment is now and what a cow on a pasture is. So the sun's beating down, the sun is helping with immune function, it's like antimicrobial. The sun is pro-immune function. So it cleanses that cow. The cow has 4 stomachs. It's very digestible. Red meat has heme iron, which is what we need, the type of iron that we need. You can get iron from plants, but it's bound, and it's not as available. So plants have compounds that protect them. And you can go look at Dr. Anthony Chaffee's stuff, because he is great, and I'm advocating for like a bit more balance. As I said, what does balance mean? I don't know. Sometimes you get to a point in all of your journey where you just like don't want to keep doing the same thing so that you've always been doing, and then it's like, okay, I'm gonna just eat meat and eggs. And there's a lot to learn from cutting out carbohydrates and not hitting those dopamine centers all the time, the pleasure centers. There's something with switching fuel sources and only burning fat. I had a rough transition with my carnivore switch, because I started it the week before I was about to start my cycle. So it was just not a great time to start. Don't recommend it. But the transition is definitely rough. What I can tell you though is I started really resistance training again. And I love resistance training, but I've actually started doing more of it, because resistance training in the carnivore diet, ketogenic diet, GLP-1 pathways, resistance training moves, like I'm moving my hands, it moves the whole system. Like if you have issues with your triglycerides and, a lot of times the system just has to be turned on and moved, and resistance training is the best way to become insulin sensitive, because it communicates with the mitochondria really intensely, and it says, look, I need more of you guys. That's the lactic acid production when we're working out, and that's purposeful lactic acid production. In the metabolic theory of cancer, a lot of the cells, they'll drive on so the mitochondria shut off, so they have to go through an inefficient pathway that doesn't involve oxygen. It's way more inefficient, glycolysis. And they turn on this pathway, and it's fermentation, and it builds lactic acid. So like if they test cancer patients, you'll find it's a very it's described as an inflammation, a disease of inflammation. There's a lot of inflammation, and then really acidic, and there of course is like I was thinking of like a PET scan and how they track for areas of the body that are picking up more glucose, because they attract glucose molecules, and they can also feed off of glutamate, which is an amino acid. So I like Dr. Thomas Seifert too. He has done a lot of interviews on YouTube University, if you want to go check him out. But the mission is for light and for mitochondrial production, because mitochondria, they're the powerhouse of the cell. That's the mission. Is like, can I strengthen my immune system? Can I strengthen my skin? Can I be more calm and patient with other people? That's the mission, to show up with patience and to be calm and grounded. I read this book one time too. I read this other book, Mitochondria Bend Space-Time. Can't find it. It was by Sean Carroll though, Something Deeply Hidden. And in the book, he talks about how Einstein's theory was that energy and mass bends space-time, and that's how the Earth, it actually sits within the orbit of the sun, because the sun is so hot, the heat and the mass and the energy, if space-time was like a sheet, the sun would just create this density and this structure within space-time, and they say that's how Earth goes around the sun. And it's so crazy because, like, okay, do we know this for a fact? I don't know. I think there's science on it and math to try and figure this out. But, you know, we perceive the sun as rising and going down, but it's like actually like the Earth is moving. Like, that's so cool. That's so crazy. And anyways, so mitochondria, you know, so you're thinking about space, you're thinking about space-time, and then you're thinking about how the sun bends and keeps Earth like there, and then you zoom down and you zoom in at a human, and you zoom in at a human with a bunch of muscle mass. Mass propels mass. It's these same, you know, principles mitochondria bend space-time. So the light that they exhilarate, is that even a word? I don't even know, it just came up. The light that they give off energy and heat, and they're the powerhouse of the cell. They cause us to bend space-time. What does this look like for us? It looks like the aging process is being slowed down. It looks like the immune system is working better. It looks like the skin is better. The skin is the first line of immune defense. It is so important to have a strong skin barrier. I had skin issues years ago, and I came to this realization that I was nutrient deficient. How crazy. So I started eating a bunch of red meat. I thought red meat was bad for us. And now here, my name on here is Red Meat Rach. I was like, red meat is bad for us. I'm only going to eat a little bit. I'm going to eat mostly plants. And then, but I was having these skin issues, these circulatory issues, like redness, dryness in my hands. I had like dryness and redness on my face in different regions. I was on an acne medication years ago, and I had this special face wash because my skin was so sensitive. I'm a sensitive gal. And then this one day, with the red meat, I started looking up all the amino acids in the biochemistry and figuring out where all this stuff comes from. I said, red meat? Who told me red meat was bad for me? I gotta start eating it. So you start eating more of it, and like my skin changed, my whole body changed. I just felt more hydrated, more satiated, grounded. But yeah, I felt it for sure, and my skin improved. But it's so important to have strong skin. I just took a little test on the immune system. It's so beautiful. The body is so beautiful. It's not just like the immune system. Like we just forgot. We have dementia. We have collective dementia. The immune system is so like complicated. There's so many different little things that's going on, and it's like the whole body is like that. Like, it's just so beautiful. And you know, and like over here it's like, oh, we still don't really know what this does. I'm like, what it's 2026, we don't know what this thing over here does? No, we don't. And I feel like, you know, it's like even the best scientific theories of the time, they turn out to be wrong, or we are reshaping and rediscovering. You know, that's what science is. It's not set in stone, not at all. And it's beautiful that we always have to adapt our understanding to that. And so, like, this is one of the most beautiful time periods in medical history, because we have been going through the dark ages, and now the light is here. The light, the mitochondrial knowledge, the inner immune function, the flame keeper, the steady, grounded, calm, peaceful person. Just, you know, the body, what's so beautiful about it to me is that, like, it never gives up on us. You know, like, it doesn't matter how far off or how far you think you have to go towards healing your body and to be feeling better. Like, the body doesn't care. Like, it loves you so much. It loves us. My body loves me so much. It says, like, it's like once you start to just nourish, especially with the food, with the protein, for me, red meat, it's just like you finally can just take this breath and just like let your body do this healing work. It's just so beautiful. And, you know, they say, like, healing does take time sometimes. And if you do try the carnivore ketogenic diet was discovered to treat epileptic seizures. What is going on that it's so helpful to the brain to help people to stop seizing all day? How is it? Because the seizing has a lot to do with glucose, blood sugar, and oxygen, and just deliverance of energy into the cells of the brain. The brain is a high energy organ, high demanding organ. So people who are real sensitive, they do the ketogenic diet. It was discovered as a fasting mimicking diet. So what it does is like, so if you stop eating sugar and you're only eating fat and protein, we're not spiking the blood sugar. We don't have as really a need for insulin. Insulin's used to bring sugar into the cell. So you bypass that, you start using the mitochondria, and these people are able to not have seizures as much because their sugar levels are much more stable. And they're investing into the mitochondria. That's beautiful, you know, especially when it's been studied and used in the medical literature since like the 1920s, something like that. You can go look it up. Okay, there's something there with like Alzheimer's, dementia, and pregnancy nutrition. All these things, they're connected. And obviously I just feel so passionate about this topic. Like, I'm so passionate about that. This is like, I'm thinking about the kids. I'm thinking about the babies. My sister works in the NICU. I'm always thinking about those babies and the pregnant mothers and how we need education more than anything. And also to not be afraid of our own biology. You know, not be afraid of the beautiful system that has carried us along since birth. Like, if you start to study the immune system, you're like, wow, how really, start studying parasites and bacteria and all this stuff. You know, we just had the lettuce outbreak with the parasites. You can get parasites or bacteria from anything, a Coke can or a bag of Doritos. Like, there's always stuff in the environment. That's why it's so important to understand how to strengthen our barriers, skin function, and all this other stuff. But it's a miracle that we survive as long as we do. Because you think about it, like, we cut ourselves on a piece of paper. Like, we're so fragile, really. And then, boom, right away, there's immune cells going to that, and it's healing it. And it's like, where did they get the energy to do that, you know? Anyway, I gotta go to bed. Another thing I'll add with that, because I'm going to bed, I've been sleeping better since being on the carnivore. I did a week from coffee long ago now, it seems. That helped with sleep. Back in the gym, that's helping with sleep. Melatonin, also coming from these animal-based proteins. Tryptophan, amino acid tryptophan breaks down into serotonin, breaks down into melatonin. We're building the capacity to dream. We're building the capacity for a regulated autonomic nervous system. Again, we are bending space-time. We might sleep an hour or two less, but it might be deeper than just laying down and sleeping and waking up and feeling so tired, exhausted. We're like wanting to deeply invest, deeply rest, invest in your mitochondria, invest in your melatonin. Like, you know, we're gonna do it. We got this. Anyway, I'm gonna go, but I do love you so much. I hope you remember the mission. It's very simple. And I will catch you next time.